Well, hello and welcome to our backyard garden here in the South Carolina upstate. This is episode 22 for 2025. It's July 25th and it's a beautiful Friday. Nice blue sky with a few fluffy clouds, no rain in sight. It's going to be about 94 today. Right now it's in the upper 80s and it's about 10 till 11. Good time to do a video like this before it gets too hot. And so we're going to get started. As I usually start here at the side of the garage, we've got our cleome growing, not looking as appealing as they did earlier in the year. Once they get so lanky and spindly like this, they're not as appealing. But we are getting still some new flower buds coming out, so they'll continue to give us color here. We've got a one over the side of the yard growing up out of the concrete as well. Then another one here. Now this one is unique because all the others are lavender. This one is pink. And actually we've got a couple of them growing next to each other. As I always say, we have the most fertile concrete in the Carolinas. And then we've got not a hosta, but a canna growing up here. Not really welcome, I have to be honest, and I'm going to cut this out after it's done blooming. We are getting at least one flower out of it, but it's really more of an eyesore than anything else, as well as the hollies that used to be in here. We had all big bushes that came up to the windows from previous owners, and they are very difficult to clear out, and so we've had a lot more growing up here. Every spring I come through and cut those out. I'm probably going to need to do that in the fall once everything is done blooming, because I don't want them to get a foothold and really get going again, or they'll choke out everything else. Now here we have kind of an interesting mix. This is a big daisy plant that's kind of done for the year, I believe. But having said that, we've got a bunch of morning glories growing on top of it. And actually, if I had gotten out here just a little bit earlier, we would have actually seen some morning glories. I believe these are kind of a pale blue color. We've gotten a lot of morning glories growing all over the place here this year. We didn't have so much of this last year, but it's really kind of covered this whole part of the garden, which is just as well, because normally we've had, I've always called this the cleome woods back in here. This bare patch was solid cleome, all having grown from seed, and instead we have just a handful down here this year. I don't know why. Might be because it was a cold winter or an unusually chilly spring and wet spring. And then we have this strange thing. I don't know what it is. It just came up. We didn't plant it. I don't know if it's a weed or if it's something different, but it does have these unique flowers on it, and so I've kept it. And we have a similar one over here. It's kind of doing the same thing. This is about 5 feet tall, and it's just growing up out of nowhere. Very healthy plant. It's got a stalk almost large enough to be called a tree at this point. And then down here at our fire pit, this is kind of a mess right now. We put stones in around the base a couple years ago, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your outlook, the cleome have really taken root, so to speak, here, but also a lot of other weeds, and I've tried to spray those as much as I can, so it doesn't look really good, but I'm in the process of trying to get the weeds out of here. Same thing here. These bricks are really prone to getting a lot of weeds growing in there, and I've just sprayed everything to try to kill it off. And at some point when I have the time, I'll try to pull out the dead ones, make it look a little bit better. Now back in the midst of all this, you'd think, okay, this is just a bunch of morning glories, but actually we do have some nice tomatoes growing up here as well, kind of hidden back in there. So far, those are the only actual tomatoes I've seen. We have several plants scattered through here, but those are the only ones that I've seen actually bear fruit. And then as we come back over here, obviously the most dominant flower in the backyard right now is our white hydrangeas. These huge plants, most of them about 6 or 7 feet tall. They just get bigger every year, and they really attract bugs, especially bees. I'm seeing a lot of honeybees here. I'm seeing some little wasps, and then these big black things. It's a type of wasp with the bluish wings, and I was afraid of these when we first moved down here from Ohio 7 years ago. Then I came to realize these are what we call mud daubers, and they eat spiders, and so they're my best friends out here. I am happy with anything that eats a spider, and so I let them go crazy. And we have a lot of other wasps, and as I say, some honeybees kind of hiding back in here. But these hydrangeas are sort of like a bee version of the zinnias that we had in the front yard, which attract butterflies and moths. These attract the bees and wasps. Now, this time of year, because these have gotten so big, they're kind of crowding out just about everything else. Plus, most of the other things in this area are done for the year. We do have a few zinnias here that we put in from seed. Asiatic lilies are long since finished. Our clematis are done. I see a little bit of color on our butterfly bush, but we have another one further down that's still doing a little bit more. This one here, this one has not been crowded out by the hydrangeas, so it's had a chance to really grow pretty big. And then we have a gigantic dragonfly. He took off right away, but we'll see more of that when we get down to the pond. And the butterfly bush is really giving us still some of these beautiful sort of magenta colored flowers. It's getting close to the end, though. Probably have maybe a couple more weeks with that one. It tends to, as its name would suggest, attract butterflies. You can see this one right here, and a lot of others. Most of the other stuff in this area is about done. I mentioned Monarda in passing in the front yard, but those are all done for the year. We do have a couple that are just hanging on here, but this is probably the last week for Monarda, even in the backyard. Knockout rose here is pretty much done for the year, along with clematis. Daylilies are all finished up back in here. We do have a few impatiens. These have not done particularly well. It might be because of the heat. I don't really know. They've just kind of hung on, but certainly not thriving. I have not had a chance to get out and fertilize them. I'm sure that does not help, but I think they would do better. But we've always kind of struggled a little bit in this area with impatiens. Some years they do really well, some years they don't. I think it just depends on what strain you get, and there's definitely a certain amount of luck involved with that. Big azaleas back in here. Eventually these azaleas will kind of take over a lot of this part of the yard. We have a nice camellia here. This one's finally doing better. This one struggled for the first 3 or 4 years that we put it in. We had to move it, and then it didn't do so well. Now it's doing pretty well. Then we've got astilbe. Those are all done for the year. Lamb's ear. I always show these off because they're just so unique. Little ground cover plants. And let's see what else we have back here. Still some hostas doing well. One little hydrangea. I'm blanking on the name. I say it every week, but I'm not coming up with it. It's hanging in there. We have several of them in the yard. Hopefully the name will come to me when I look at them elsewhere. We've got one right here that's doing well. I'm just blanking on the name. Big purple flowers in this springtime. It's one of the things that happens when you get to 62. It's sometimes a little bit of a struggle to come up with certain words and names. But anyway, some more black-eyed Susans here. Daylilies in this area are pretty much done. And then we've got a lot of other stuff along the fence, kind of a mix of climbing roses and jasmine, clematis, all through here really. Here is a really, really good, if we can get close enough without scaring him off, get a good view of this dragonfly. This is a pretty typical dragonfly that we see in this area. Again, I'm not an entomologist, so I can't tell you any detail about it, but it is a really cool bug. And actually, I see a gigantic butterfly, one of the bigger ones I've seen, kind of floating around from flower to flower. Hard to get a good view of him from over here, but you might be able to see him on the video. But we have quite an ecosystem of everything: bugs, birds, fish, you name it, because of the pond. And it's one of the best things about this yard. So we got our big knockout rose here. It struggled last year, but it has done very well this year, and it's going to, more likely than not, keep getting bigger and bigger. Another camellia here. These bloom in the late spring. This year, I'm sorry, late winter. This year it bloomed a little later than usual, which was kind of nice. We got most of the flowers February, March, even into early April. Typically we've had them finishing up by late January, early February, but we got a lot more flowers this year. I think as the plants mature, they get a little more prolific with flowers. Another daisy here. I did some cutting back here in the trellis area last week, and it may not look like it initially, but this group of jasmine and climbing roses were really starting to take over, making it harder and harder to get through here. But right now it's a nice shady spot to come on a hot day like this. But I have to say, and I got to say this as much to remind myself as anything else, I do need to get back in here with my roundup later on, because back lurking behind this are poison ivy. If you can see those leaves in there, those are the dreaded three-leaved plants that will give you a very unpleasant rash if you get in contact with them. Here we have some spiderwort. Kind of have to get out here in the morning to see these, and they usually finish up around noon or as soon as the sun hits them. And then over here we've got some veronica doing very well. These spiky purple flowers, they really attract the bees. Big bumblebee there. And got some more back, kind of scattered throughout this part of the garden. And a nice pink tea rose back in there, a nice orange or sort of orangish red tea rose here. And certainly a big cluster of zinnias here. We had a lot of calla lilies in this area. You can still see them here with these spotted leaves. Kind of a tropical looking plant. They've done very well. We have probably at least 10 of them, and about 6 different colors that I've identified. And they keep getting bigger every year. I cannot recommend these highly enough. They're low maintenance. They give you absolutely beautiful flowers that look like Easter lilies, and as I say, all different colors, and they're typically not real expensive at places like Home Depot and Lowe's. And then over here we've got our biggest butterfly bush in the yard, and it's usually about a month behind the others that we have. We have one in the front yard and 2 over on the hillside, but this one will keep blooming probably for a few more weeks. Again, these beautiful, beautiful purple flowers, a little more purple than the other one that we saw a few minutes ago. It's more of a magenta color. More zinnias over in here. We had some moonflowers, or balloon flowers, I should say, down in here, but they're done for the year. We still have one daylily, and it looks like it has, this is the one from yesterday. We've got one more bud. I think that'll be our last daylily of the year. I'm not aware of any others that are still going. Those are usually May and June flowers, but we'll get a few stragglers that still continue to come out. We had gladiolus here. Those are all done. More zinnias over here, and then we do have one glad that's still blooming. Not a lot, it's a small one, but it's beautiful yellow color with little pink highlights. And then this unnamed tropical sort of plant, We just don't know the name of it. Somebody gave it to us, but it gives us these really beautiful tropical flowers every year in the midsummer. I think it's just about done though. I forgot to mention as we were kind of going through the area around the trellis and then over here as well, you can kind of see all these branches that have very tiny pink flowers. This is a climbing rose, and we have 4 of these in the yard, and each one of them is absolutely huge. It's just covered with flowers. It will continue to bloom off and on throughout the rest of the season. And we have a big one up on the right side of the trellis, and then this one here, one up against the house, and another one over on the far side. I hated to miss that. And we've even got a couple little clematis still blooming here. We have clematis all over the place. They're vines just like everything else, and they don't typically bloom a whole lot after May and June, but you'll get individual ones that'll put out some flowers. They're kind of on their own timetable, which is kind of fun because you just never know what you're going to see when you come out here at any given time. And over in here, not a lot to see. This ice plant is done blooming. It gave us some little yellow flowers earlier, and I'm still blanking out on the name of our vine here. It's just a day where I'm not coming up with that word. Getting a little bit of a mental block on that. And we have another one back in here, kind of hidden back amongst the weeds. This is the biggest one we have, and it's not blooming right now. It blooms typically in April and May, and occasionally you'll get a few stragglers continuing through the year. But just looking really healthy. Our neighbors here have some beautiful hydrangeas that are blooming right now, a little bit off the typical schedule, which is more spring-like. These always bloom a little bit later in the year, just a different strain. It's nice to see that color now because all of our hydrangeas in the front yard, the blue and red ones, are pretty much finished up. And back in here, our canna are doing better. This is probably the best year that I've seen for our canna so far, especially these two types, the ones that are more green, the ones that are more red. The ones that are more green, like this, put out these yellow flowers that are very tropical looking, and we have more flowers than we've had in the past. And even the red ones are putting out a couple flowers. These tend to struggle for whatever reason. I think it could be a nutritional deficiency. I just don't know. They really are sitting in fairly poor soil. But despite that, we're getting a lot of flowers. And so I give them credit for giving it the old college try year after year. But they have been, as I always say, for the amount of vegetation, and you can see down here at the ground level, these plants are about 6-7 feet tall, and you really get a very minimal number of flowers out of them. And again, the darker or the lighter green ones only grow to about 3 or 4 feet, and they give you a lot more flowers. So those I would recommend. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the red ones. I do see them around in yards, and sometimes they're doing absolutely great. Probably is just a matter of getting the quality soil. There you go. That's the case with almost all gardening. Now our black-eyed Susans have really started to come out in large numbers in the past week. We had a few scattered ones, but now they're really coming out in big numbers all through here. All of our daylilies are finished, and irises are all finished. Even the canna that had grown up here. I'm going to have to go through either this fall or next spring and really do some serious weeding in this area. We've our plants that we've wanted to grow here, irises and daylilies and black-eyed Susans, have been just sort of forced out by maple trees and creeping Virginia creeper and other things. So this is going to take a lot of work to clear out, but Not going to do it when the weather is going to be super hot. And in fact, the prediction for the next 5 days around here is roughly right around 98, 99 degrees for a high. So it's probably not the best time of the year for some heavy duty gardening. Having covered all of that, we're going to come up to the house and finish this up. Just since last week, this rose here, which I thought was kind of done for the year, is giving us some beautiful magenta colored roses, and these are always really fragrant too. You can see on here a lot of seed pods. This one has been pretty prolific. It's given us a lot of flowers through the year. Same thing with this yellow knockout. It's giving us a few flowers right now, but again, a lot of seed pods. So I mean, we've had a lot of flowers. This phlox, I'll get out of the shadow there. Phlox is doing really well. We have a white one that's just kind of hanging on, but the pink one is doing really well. And then a little Veronica behind that. Some more Veronica here. Again, like in some of the other beds, a lot of weeds this time of year, and it gets harder and harder to control them. And I just sort of throw my hands up from about mid-July on with regard to that, because keeping up with the weeds is very difficult. Got some marigolds that have kind of popped up here, doing very well actually. Some more zinnias. We had a lot of calla lilies back in here. They're all pretty much finished up. We have a couple lilacs and a lot of daylilies through here that are all finished. And we do have a clematis that's still blooming, and he's surrounded completely by, or she, I can't really guarantee either one, big maple tree that's grown up through there. I'm going to have to cut that back at some point. And then this is really about the only, well, I won't say the only, but it's one of the only blooming branches on this climber right now. We've got a few other flowers over in here, but right now this one is for the most part kind of dormant. And then we've had Asiatic lilies through the year. You can look back at some of our older videos to see those in bloom. And that's really about it. I have to cut back the climbing rose here. I've done it already a couple times, and it just keeps taking over the stairwell, which I don't want, because we have to be able to get up and down, of course. And that's about it. So a lot more to see here in the backyard than in the front, but really for the next month or so, I think these white hydrangeas are going to be the dominant flower, along with the scattered cleome, roses, zinnias, and black-eyed Susans. But as I keep saying, you never know what you're going to get at any given time, and it's always interesting to come out and see what might have suddenly come into bloom that you weren't expecting. That's the fun of gardening. One of many things that's fun about gardening. Anyway, hope it's sunny wherever you are, and until next time, happy gardening.